annotating that first document, what we will be working on over the next 3 days, we are going to be putting together our review packet. Okay? So I'd like you to get started on the PDN portion of this by looking at this document, and then we're going to be doing a bunch of different activities using this review packet to get you ready for the exams that are going to take place next week. It depends on how the tests are scheduled. I don't know the exact schedule. Yes, honey. You can go use the bathroom. Now, the way in which we get all of the review done is dependent on how much we get done in class. Okay? So, I want to be able to give you as much review as possible, but it is as dependent on you as you give me. Okay? So, I'm going to get us started with our PDN. Go ahead and get started on the annotations right now. I will be coming around to see how you are progressing with your annotations.
Are you able to set up the Zoom call?
I've been recording. I don't.
She has one set up. All you have to do is accept the invitation.
Yeah, I've just been recording it and just posting it online on my Google Classroom.
That's
fine. So that's
basically the same thing.
Yeah.
I'll let her know.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing, just because I can't do this, that, like it she's not understanding that I can't accept the Zoom from here and present at the same time. It doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, yeah, I get that. 'Cause usually,
Yeah.
Yeah, they wanted me to use my computer, but I'm getting work done too. So
Yeah. So
I'll let her know that you recording it.
Yeah. Yes, dear. Yeah, go ahead.
Yo, let's stay focused. Don't want to relax. Let's stay focused. Remove the hoodie off the desk to give yourself some space to do your work. Thank you. Thank you, Nathan, for staying focused. Let's read and annotate some here. Let's read and annotate. Thank you.
God. Annotating. 1, 2, 3. Off task. Okay. We're going to stop here, and we're going to talk about some things with this document. First off, with this author, we've got who is our person? Is he somebody that lived during this time period that he's talking about, or is he someone that is looking back at this time period?
Looking back.
Good. So we would describe this as, is this a first person account or is this a second person?
Second.
Good. It's a second person account. This is a historian. Okay. Excellent. So when we're looking at the point of view of our document, that Thomas Bender is a secondary source. Okay. Now, one of the things that I really want to focus in on, and I would very much write this down somewhere, is what were they trying to accomplish in this in the purpose here? Were they trying to encourage economic growth somewhere? Where was that economic growth going to be? In Europe or the Americas?
In America? Well, Europe.
Good. Okay, so this is going to stimulate economic growth in the I got ahead of myself. In Europe by finding items in America. Okay, so it's going to stimulate economic growth in Europe by finding items in America. Did you write that down? I would definitely write that down. Oh, I'm sorry. I can move. Now, for audience and historical context, these are kind of inconsequential portions of this document analysis because this is largely for a textbook. Okay, so the historical context, he's writing for a textbook. So the historical context is this is for a textbook publication, in 2006. Audience. If he's writing in a textbook, who's the audience?
People.
Like people who read the book.
Yeah, who would be us?
Everyone.
United States. Uh-oh.
Students. Students and historians. Okay. The other, we need the key part, super important, and the super important. So I would mark it with like stars, the asterisks, the things to study. Yes. Yes. Are the purpose statement and the significance statement on this one. So what's the significance statement? Well, the significance statement is that this Atlantic economy, because that's the whole thing that he's talking about here. So the Atlantic economy, gotta make sure I can spell. The Atlantic economy, is it going to,
Sorry.
No,
How
it's
do you
okay.
spell that word? Atlantic.
ATLANT. Oh, I can't spell. I'm sorry. I apparently lost my mind. Atlantic.
Thank you.
I am so sorry. I goofed real bad. So, Atlantic economy. I am so sorry.
It's fine.
Apparently, my brain was thinking at a different speed than my hand. So, my bad. I am so sorry. The Atlantic economy. Was the Atlantic economy something that was going to remain the same? Or was it radically changed based on this document?
Changed.
Yeah, it radically changed. So the Atlantic economy radically changed and impacted Europe, Africa, because that, remember, it's going to impact the slave trade, Africa, Europe, Africa, and the Americas. Huh? Americas, because you have to have North and South America. So that's our significant statement. Okay? So we've got, it's going to stimulate economic growth in Europe by finding items in America. And then our significant statement is that the Atlantic economy, this like global system of trade, where you've got manufactured goods traveling to Africa, being traded, then picking up people in Africa, being brought to the Americas. Those people are being put to work in the Americas to cultivate raw materials that are then brought to Europe to be manufactured into finished goods that are then brought back into this system to be traded again. Okay? Everybody understand how that process worked? Now, again, this should be review, but I feel like it's not. Now, that also should be what you are seeing in your next image. Bum, 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 the picture. But that one is viewing it from a slightly different perspective, right? Because now it's looking at the image from the perspective of, and let me see if I can switch it up and look at, maybe, hello. Let me pull up the actual document so that we can all look at it together. Oh, that is the incorrect. Guys, we doing okay? So, everybody should have that map in front of you. Oh, yeah, I guess it's a map. All right. So, you're also going to see pictures and graphs on our test. So, we've got the Columbian Exchange image here. When we look at images like this, we are also going to have to assess what this information gives us. So when we're given an image like this, what kind of information does this provide to us? We can see a whole bunch of information or a whole bunch of materials. Jamash.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing.
Go ahead.
What they trade. I forgot.
You okay? Okay. Essentially, the Americas are offering a ridiculous amount of products, a ridiculous amount of raw materials to Europe. We've got all of these raw materials that come to Europe that Europe had never seen before. So we've got all of the yummy goodness of sweet potatoes, avocados, peppers, cassava, peanuts, tomatoes, all of these yummy foods that Europe had never had access to before. Thank you. But they also had access to medicine. Quinine was the treatment for malaria, which you definitely needed in order to be able to survive in much of the equatorial regions of the world, because otherwise you were going to die of a pretty high fever illness. Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Then, of course, there was tobacco, which was one of the Europeans' favorite exports. Now, what did Europeans bring to the New World? Well, they did bring some crops and products, but they also brought some pretty terrible things. They brought a slew of diseases, which is part of the reason why we see that native peoples in the Americas died by the millions, because they brought smallpox, influenza, typhus, measles, malaria, diphtheria, whooping cough. They also brought with them animals and various types of plants that had never been exposed to the Americas before. Because there just weren't certain things that lived in the Americas before this period. So we never had cattle, we never had sheep, we never had pigs or horses in the Americas. So the exposure of these animals to the Americas greatly changed what was here. So that being said, let's think about what this does. Ooh, apparently, my computer's like, you're clearly not using me. Thank you. Let's think about what this does then to the society. If that's the case, we have this massive exchange. We've got all these diseases. We've got all of these things coming in. What's a consequence? Okay? I want you to think about that word. What's a consequence of new European crops? And I'm going to go to the other side here. So I want you to think of the word consequence. Consequence of, that is not it, consequence of new European crops on New World. Okay, so what's a consequence of New World?
Write that down.
I would. What's a consequence of new European crops? Oh, and also livestock. What's it going to do to the society? What's going to happen to the Americas? What's it going to do? Is everything going to be cool and remain the same?
No.
No. You know, now you've got horses running around. Now you've got pigs running around. Did you know that pigs, once you introduce them into a place, they massively reproduce, and they're brilliant, and basically, once they're introduced to a place, they will basically peace out and do their own thing. And Florida right now, they have such a problem of an invasive pig issue because the pigs are way smarter than the average Floridian, but they are feral, which means that they have gone back to being wild, and they are smarter than a lot of people, and they've kind of formed wild bands of pigs, and
Like a cult?
kinda. And they have to organize hunts to stop the pigs because the pigs will attack local farms, and because now that they're wild, they have started to grow large front incisors, and they can be aggressive. Okay, Nathan, and then Aaliyah.
Question.
Yes.
Are they hiring to hunt?
Yes, you can.
Oh, sign me
Um, did you know some of those pigs are actually crossbreeding with the ones that just run away? Your offsprings are different because you crossbred them with the pigs that are just running away. You didn't have to go test yet or anything.
Yeah, they're not.
Oh, so they like boars.
Yeah.
Orange. That's crazy.
Yeah, they're a mix. Okay, go ahead, Dylan.
So there's
getting a whole army of pigs in Florida.
Oh, God.
You talking about them little wild ones? Them little, you know, the black ones?
There's a combination of wild
I'm
boars.
talking about them things that be running in the woods. They like pigs.
Well, there's
Wild boar.
there's a combination of wild boars, wild pigs. There's now an amalgamation of the two. Yes. So yeah, it's quite an issue. All right, so let's return to this. What's the consequence? So what's the consequence, guys?
Wild animals.
Okay, so we're gonna have a massive change to massive environmental change. Okay, massive environmental change. Yeah. Go ahead. Were there people that already lived here? Yeah. What do we call the people that already lived in the Americas?
The English? The English? Oh, the colonists?
That already lived here.
American.
Start pushing.
Wait.
Natives.
Tomas.
Indigenous,
Okay, the indigenous people, the native people. So the indigenous,
I told you.
okay, the indigenous people or the Native Americans will be forever altered by these changes. Because now they're yes,
what did I say at the massive?
massive environmental change. Because now they're going to have access to plants and animals that weren't there before. It's also going to change what's literally in their environment. So animals that weren't there before are now eating their crops because a lot of native people were farming people. A lot of Native Americans were people that traveled from one location to another to hunt, and now the animals that they hunted are now moving away because the animals that they hunted are being basically run off by these new animals that are hunting them. So you run into a situation that is forever altering what is present. So this situation is one that is incredibly problematic. Oh, I forgot we needed to hit another issue while we were there. Yes, honey, you may go get water. Yes.
Wait, how do you spell indigenous again?
Oh, indigenous, you can also just put Native American, just and NA is fine. Yes.
Diseases?
We're going to talk about diseases, yes. So, yeah, this is going to introduce, so intro diseases. Now, one of the key groups that brought over so many of this system in is going to be the Spanish. And they're going to be using a system called encomienda. Now, encomienda was borrowed from a system that was already in place. Are you okay?
Stay focused. We've been doing a great job. Stay focused. Thank you.
A system that was already in place
Nathan,
in
in your pocket, please.
the indigenous societies that were present. Essentially, indigenous societies, the native societies that were already there, had a system where instead of collecting taxes, you would pay in working for your tribe. So for a period of time, you would pay in work to do like a certain project to the tribe. Well, the Spanish liked that, and they were like, we'll have you work for us, and we'll have the native people work for us. But they wanted to extend this concept. They wanted to force the natives to work very, very long hours for the Spanish and extend this kind of forced labor. So by saying, oh, well, it's you're responsible to pay us your encomienda, your obligation in order to receive the protection from the Spanish Empire. In order to get the protection from us as taxation, you need to do this labor. But remember, they also introduced disease to this population. So when they did that, a lot of the natives couldn't keep up with the work. And so when the Spaniards switched to this encomienda system, the native people couldn't keep up with the work. And when they switched to encomienda, the native people natives were dying. And the Spanish had to turn to who? Who they had to turn to do the work? If they can't.
Either the Americans or slaves.
Excellent. They had to turn to slave labor. They were like, well, because they don't have Americans yet. There's no Americans yet. They don't exist yet. They turn to slave labor. So that's when they start bringing in slaves from Africa. Okay? So that's when they start bringing in slave labor from Africa. Okay? Does that make sense? Everybody with me? Everybody get how this comes together? Yes.
How did they trace bees if beekeepers didn't exist by that time?
They actually, beekeepers did exist. Beekeeping originates, I believe, as far back as like maybe the 700s. Like, it's an old profession. Now, how good you were at being a beekeeper in the 700s, but I'm sure there were a lot of people that died from anaphylactic shock, and they didn't know it at the time. They were just like, "Oh, some bad things happened to that guy," but but there are people that have been like collectors of bees and keepers of bees for um, very long periods of time, and like written about their beekeeping uh, histories for a ridiculously long period of time. We've got like journals of like, it's strange, like honey journals as far back as there's actually a book that documents the creation of the first alcoholic beverage based on honey that dates back to the 600s. So that beekeeping has been very important since the beginning of humans. We have been down with bees, which is a little bit terrifying to me as someone allergic to bees. Um, let's switch gears. Let's look at what I would like us to do. I'd like for us to take a second. Do our first two documents make sense so far? Yeah? Yeah? What I'd like you guys to do is I would like to break us into two teams and have you look at, for the next 5 minutes, I'd like you to look at the Colin Galloway document. So, document, I believe it is labeled as document 2 and document 3. So, I would like, I'm going to have this row over here. I'd like you to do document 2, and this row, and you guys, I'd like you to do document, wait, I told you document 2, yes? Okay, I'd like you to do document 3. Okay? And I just want you to go through, and the key idea here is I want you to figure out who is the author, and I want you to figure out what is their purpose. Okay, what is the author trying to communicate? Can you figure out those two things for me? So, who is the author? Like, what's their backstory? And what is the purpose? Okay, and we'll go from there. Seem like a reasonable task in these 5 minutes? Go. Yes, go ahead. So, 5 minutes. Author, purpose. I will be coming around to check on author in my first lap. you about half the time left. You about 2.5 minutes. Yeah, there's a box of tissues in the back. Perfect. All right, guys, let's look at our document. So let's look at document 2 together. Their world quite literally changed before the Indians' eyes as European colonists transformed the forest into farmland. In the southeast, hogs ran wild, sheep and goats became permanent parts of the economy and culture of Pueblo and Navajo peoples. In the southwest, horses transformed the lives and cultures of Indian peoples on the plains. Europeans also brought honeybees, black rats, cats, and cockroaches to America. So this is Colin G. Calloway, a historian, First Peoples, a documentary survey of American Indian history. We all good? Thank you. So, let's start with POV. Who is our source?
Colin G.
So, Colin G. Calloway. And actually, let's steal this. So, Colin G. Calloway. And what do we know about him? Yeah.
He is like the secondary source of telling the story.
Okay, he's a secondary source because he's a historian. Okay, he's talking about what's going on. He's a historian. Is there a particular reason why we're staring at a crotch right now? Why are you staring at your crotch? Let's do this right now. All right, so it's secondary stores. He's a historian. Yeah, so is exactly what you're doing. Okay. So, historical context I didn't ask you for because essentially it's less relevant for this one. But I wanted to know the purpose. What is he trying to tell us? Okay. Okay.
How the what's it called? Europeans changed the how they brought over like all these different types of animals, plants, and foods to the America, right?
Mm-hmm. So that Europeans brought over and I want to emphasize this, Columbian exchange brought over in the Columbian exchange all kinds of items that did what?
That changed the whole economy.
That changed all of America. Or
Hey, yo.
guys, why is there so much talking?
I hurt myself.
Cry quietly.
Cry quiet.
No one would believe that.
Dang, she sound good.
I don't have to try.
It's what you're, bro.
Now, the one thing I didn't ask you for, but I am going to provide to you, is the significant statement. So, why is this significant? What do you think?
I think it's significant because of the crazy things they brought over, how it just changed what they eat and the animals they have in America.
Okay, so the degree of change is so severe, and I'm going to add something to it because it's something that's going to show up on the test, is so severe. However, Europeans felt that it was proof they were a higher level of civilization. So even though they brought over things that we would largely go, that's not right, that's messed up. Because, okay, cool on the honeybees. Less cool on the black rats and cockroaches, though.
Wow.
Talking about Tyson.
Oh my god.
I definitely would have. I definitely would have been cool if they had kept the rats and the cockroaches back in Europe. Yes, sir. Oh, yeah.
Some exploding China boats.
What? What?
Exploding China boats?
China bugs, bro. What?
What's wrong with you?
They said exploding China boats is coming to.
Sweetie, shh.
Oh, no,
If you- no, If you're going to say something racist, could you just leave it inside your head? How was that racist? How was it not racist?
I say exploding China boats. How is it?
Everything that came out of your mouth was racist.
Exploding was racist. China was racist.
Just
China was racist. And books was called black
the color of the rats was black.
Oh my god.
Like, what is wrong with you? I can't fix you. You're so broken. All right. So I'm going to give you a second to get that down, and then we'll look at document 3. I should not hear anyone's electronics. Oh, we don't have time. Okay, I'm sorry. I miscalculated the time. We need to stop here. We will pick up with document 3 tomorrow. I'm so sorry.